All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the inaugural webinar of the Cooking for Success series, Recipes for Growing Food-Based Businesses. The webinar series is a partnership between the National Association for Latino Community Asset Builders, or NALCAB, and the California Association for Microenterprise Opportunity, CAMEO, and has been made possible with support from the Kellogg Foundation. I'll share a few notes before we begin. First, this webinar is being recorded, and we'll distribute the recording to everybody who's registered. Also, attendees have been muted, but we encourage you to ask questions. Please type your questions in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll monitor them and ask them throughout the webinar as possible, and we'll have additional time at the end for some additional questions and answers. Leading the webinar today, we have myself, Holly Frindell, Program Director from NALCAB, and Heidi Pickman from CAMEO.
Thank you, Holly. It's good to be here. We're happy that all of you are here with us today because food entrepreneurship, we know how vital it is in creating economic mobility for both Latino and immigrant families and our communities as a whole. Our approaches to entrepreneurial support are often presented in narrow silos, training entrepreneurs or access to capital or getting clients. CAMEO is helping to shift that focus to more holistic ecosystem view, figuring out how supporting our small businesses with what they really need, which is a strong local entrepreneurial ecosystem with business training, small amounts of capital, access to market, value, which is a value for local businesses, and the valuing local businesses and entrepreneurship in your communities, and policies that encourage entrepreneurship. All of that helps create a strong infrastructure of the many small locally owned businesses. CAMEO calls this the local entrepreneurial ecosystem, and it's made up of 5 C's. Coaching, which is training; capital, we mentioned that; connections, that's that connections to markets and connections to other entrepreneurs; climate, that's the policy; and culture, that's the idea, does your community value entrepreneurship? When these pieces are in place, small businesses can succeed, they create jobs, they create financial health and wealth for their families, and as a result, local community success. So this webinar series, we're going to focus on the local entrepreneurial system as it refers to the food industry. And just to keep it simple, we decided to narrow it down to 3 parts: coaching, capital, and climate. The climate's the policy. Today we're looking at coaching. We hope this series is food for thought on how to support emerging entrepreneurs and transform the entrepreneurial environment for Latino and immigrant family engaged in neighborhood-based small business activity, with the ultimate goal is to ensure that our food entrepreneurs are successful and communities are sustainable. And I'm going to just pop into chat a link to, if you want to know more about the entrepreneurial ecosystem and what those 5 C's are in depth and read case studies, you can go check out that link, copy and paste. With that in mind, I'll hand it back to Holly.
Great. So for today's agenda, we'll introduce NALCAB and CAMEO and find out a little bit about our audience. We'll also introduce our guest speaker, Cesario Ruiz from El Pájaro CDC. Cesario will talk about the lessons El Pájaro has learned through creating a successful food-based entrepreneur program in Watsonville, California. Again, please feel free to ask questions as we go. There will be a question and answer period at the end, and we'll conclude by sharing some additional resources for those who want to dive more deeply into this topic. So first, I just want to quickly introduce NALCAB for those of you who may not know us. NALCAB strengthens the economy by advancing economic mobility in Latino communities. We are the hub of a national network of more than 120 organizations in 40 states, DC, and Puerto Rico. And those organizations are anchor institutions primarily in Latino and immigrant communities. And I'll let Heidi introduce CAMEO.
Yeah, thank you, Holly. CAMEO, I am Heidi. CAMEO is the statewide network of entrepreneurial training programs and micro lenders in California with a mission to grow a thriving ecosystem of support for underserved entrepreneurs. And you can learn more about us at cameonetwork.org, and I'm sure we'll give that information out at the end. We want to know a little bit about you now. Who's attending today? Many of our members have experience serving food entrepreneurs or doing similar work. We want to know what kind of organizations do you work for, and you can choose more than one here. Are you a small business coaching organization? Do you lend out money? Are you a small business incubator? Or are you a food entrepreneur? Or are you something completely different? And if so, you can go ahead and type that into chat. We want to get a feel of who you are.
Okay, great. We'll give you a few more minutes to put in your responses. It looks like most people are finishing up here. Okay. All right. We are just finishing up. We have about 10 more seconds for people to submit responses, and then I will show you the poll results. It looks like we have about 38% who are small business coaches, about 31% who are lenders, 38% who are small business incubators, a few on the line who are food entrepreneurs themselves, and about 23% who are something other than that. So that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that information. We also have one additional poll. We're wondering, how many years have you been serving food entrepreneurs? You should see a second poll pop up. Just thinking about it, less than 3 years, somewhere between 3 to 5 years, or more than 5 years. So we'll give you guys some time to answer that. Looks like these answers are coming in a little bit more quickly. All right, we'll go ahead and close this poll, and we'll have about 15 seconds left. Okay, and it looks like, let's see, it's calculating now. So about no one is just thinking about it, so that's great. That means it sounds like everybody on the call has some experience. We've got about 38% who have been doing it about less than 3 years, 6% doing it 3 to 5 years, and 56% doing it more than 5 years. So that's great. It sounds like we have a really experienced group. We think you'll still, all levels of experience will hopefully find something something useful from today's webinar. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Heidi to introduce our guest speaker.
Thanks, Holly, and for sharing that information. Yeah, I think our next guest speaker is they're doing a lot of creative programs, so I think everybody will find something super interesting. So today we're going to talk about, we mentioned at the beginning, the 5 C's. We're going to focus on one, and that's coaching. Any successful business will have within its structure the following: skilled talent, financial capital, and connections to markets and networks. The way to develop the talent is to ensure some kind of coaching, whether in the form of one-on-one mentoring, advising, business classes, workshops on specific topics. Online learning is becoming super popular. If you're not doing online learning, that's somewhere to go. That's pretty exciting avenue. Peer learning, or any other type of business assistance. And we like to say here at CAMEO, it's the first step in the capital access process. The first thing you want to do if you want to get a loan is not to go and look for the money. It's to get some coaching and make sure you have all your ducks in a row, that you can get good capital, and you can, you know, use it to the best of your ability. 80% of business owners that receive help succeed and create 2 additional jobs within 2 years. So our guest speaker, Cesario Ruiz, is the facilities manager for the Kitchen Incubator operated by El Pájaro CDC, which is a nonprofit organization based in Watsonville, California. El Pájaro offers no-cost technical assistance or business assistance to local entrepreneurs developing their own food products and brands. He also created My Mom's Mole, which I've personally taken and always have. I've personally tried and always have a packet in my freezer. He created it in 2013 to focus on the intersection of traditional Mexican cuisine and sustainable agriculture. He initially launched it as a retail product, but the brand's grown rapidly to incorporate catering, events, food service, and education. I am now going to turn it over to Cesario.
Well, hello, what an introduction. Thank you very much. And thanks for the opportunity to share our experiences at the CDC with whoever is interested on developing, creating, or implementing any of the programs. By the end of this quick presentation, I want to make sure that everyone who is our audience, they end up with something new. If you feel that this didn't offer you enough, we welcome comments to continue improving into the information that it's needed. As we often go in our organization, if we don't have the answer to the question, we will look for that special person to find the information. And most importantly, I think, thanks CAMEO and NALCAB for putting this together, because through this work, we want to continue making sure that the web of resources is there, and that for people that are doing this legwork in the ground, we'll have someone to go for. So I hope that this 45 minutes are educational for everyone. And yeah, let's start on that. So the next 45 minutes will be I will be sharing with you a little bit of El Pájaro CDC. Believe it or not, we are a 40-year organization. We're gonna talk about one of our clients who came to us almost in the hinge of losing his business, and I want to share a little bit about his story and how the Kitchen Incubator, it's been such a great help to continue growing his business. We are going to talk a little bit about our support program that we have for people that are in need of assistance, and we're going to be learning all the things that we've learned in the last few years that our Kitchen Incubator has been up and running. First, I want to share that El Pájaro CDC, it's been an organization that was established in 1979. And we, at the time, started just offering services to Watsonville, California residents. Watsonville is a little farming community where the unemployment rate is typically higher than the national rates. And the Pájaro CDC wanted to tap into those seasonal jobs and the people that actually participate into these seasonal jobs to tap into their entrepreneurial spirits and see if they could, in one way or another, utilize those skills to create more revenue to continue developing local jobs. Fast forward from 1979 to 1989, we all know about that Loma Prieta earthquake that actually was devastating in our area. And there was a building, you guys are looking at our retail incubator, which is Plaza Vigil. In the earthquake, that was a building that actually collapsed. And there was a team of folks that wanted to do something for the community. And that's how our retail incubator was built. thanks to the earthquake, and started being operational back in 1996. That's when our retail incubator started being effective. We have restaurants, we have retail spaces, we have office spaces on the second floor, and this is also targeted with the same idea of having people coming with the idea, allow them to use these small retails with the idea that eventually they will outgrow these spaces and move into larger retail spaces. In 1999, El Pájaro CDC incorporated low-income housing into their program. This happened by partnering with some local nonprofits to actually be part and owner of a low-income housing. And that's when Pájaro CDC became a general partner of the Northgate apartment complex, which is, as you can see, is still on the outskirts of the city where we live. And it's actually a beautiful little site because the farming industry is right next to it. Really nice building. One of the core programs that El Pájaro CDC has been offering for a while, it's the education program that now morphed into calling it the Empresario program. This became our core educational program in 2004 and 2006. This is a 10-week training, and it's focused on providing people the right tools to develop a business plan. And it's the only bilingual service that it's offered in the Tri-County area. And so we have partnered up with other cities in different counties that we are located, because the resources to the Latino community or the immigrant community are very minimum. And so we are the only bilingual program that offers this assistance to people who want to start businesses. We offer these classes twice a year. We have a spring session and a fall session. And then in 2007, this class actually was offered to the Tri-County area again because of the lack of low-income activity or resources. They subcontract El Pájaro CDC to offer these classes in different cities.
Hey, Cesario, can I ask you a question? This is Heidi.
Absolutely. Hi, Heidi.
Yeah, can you guys go back to the last slide? What kind of businesses were you seeing at the Empresario, and how'd you go about, well, let's start there. What type of businesses were you seeing?
So because by 2006, the organization had already been providing so much assistance, there was a very interesting fact that showed up in our data. 40% of the people who came seeking assistance was actually related to a food business. And so that was the take on analyzing the data that had already existed from previous years. And that was then the light bulb, for lack of a better word, that started to tap into the board of directors into developing a commercial kitchen that will allow all these folks to have a place and prevent them from doing such a large investments in building their own kitchens, oftentimes falling into really bad negotiation deals with restaurants that were not up to code. We've seen a lot of stories that are actually pretty sad. And so that's when the board of directors of El Pájaro CDC started to tap into the idea of developing the commercial kitchen incubator.
That's interesting. So can you just elaborate on the sad stories, like that some of the, like some cautions for people to be aware of that happened to people? Because I think that's kind of an interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, something to watch out for if you're seeing these food entrepreneurs.
One of the things that really caught my attention, we learned from a business that's actually currently using the commercial kitchen incubator, prior to moving into the kitchen, he had already invested about $20,000 into trying to into making certain changes to a building that he had already leased. When the final inspection came, turned out that because it wasn't ADA compliance, he couldn't process the food that he needed because the location was in a second floor. So they said to him that he needed to install an elevator to be able to utilize the space. And that's what killed everything, because there was no way that he was going to be able to continue doing more investments. So we learned these stories happen frequently, and we learned that by having the right information to our folks, we are trying usually to be very cautious about before they sign into any leases, because we want to make sure that they understand the new regulations. A lot of the buildings are pretty old and they are not up to code. And now the county or the cities are not allowing to certain businesses to operate it if they don't comply with all of these regulations. And so that's just one of the cases that we have seen. And I think that oftentimes the empresario class really is, for some of our businesses, it's a wake-up call, and really makes them understand that the idea or the location they're looking at might not be the right one. So that's how we start screening people. That's how we start providing people or preventing them from falling into these mistakes that end up being a huge, loss for their money, or even putting so much money into these projects.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thanks. Cool. Okay. Thank you.
All right. So this next slide shows how our commercial kitchen incubator looks like. We have several prep stations. At the far end, you can see our cooking line. In the bottom right, you can see Mr. Vicente Quintana. We're going to be talking a little bit more about his process, but this facility is currently hosting about 40 businesses. We have a few more businesses that are coming in to work into the kitchen. And so we're very excited that this place has provided a great startup place for people who are in need of a commercial kitchen. And so the kitchen opened in 2013. This is when the kitchen actually opened to production.
Cesario, this is Holly. What are some of the pieces that needed to be in place in order to create a commercial kitchen?
Very good question. Even though it sounds like a very, very intense project, and yes, it is a very intense project, I think the initial study that the board of directors suggested to do was doing a feasibility study. I know that for some folks that want to start kitchen incubators, I think that you need to really dig into getting some of this money that oftentimes some organizations have available, because they probably will love the project, but it's more realistically to understand what kind of space you're going to need. Initially, the board of directors thought that we were going to be able to use our retail incubator in downtown Watsonville, which I showed earlier. But the results of the feasibility study showed that we needed at least 4,000 square foot of building in order to develop the idea. So knowing that information, the board of directors sat with the idea, and they just waited for the right opportunity and the right building to open up to then start the project. It's also important to mention that they had already secured some money for the equipment, but then again, there were a lot of other costs that came with updating what the commercial kitchen it is now into what it used to be, because again, there were a lot of codes that needed to be upgraded. And even though they were big projects, what really helped us was that the previous business that was utilizing what now the commercial kitchen is, it was already a food processing facility. So I think that that really made it a lot more easier and feasible for us to actually build it. So I think that the main take that I take from that is, if you're looking into this, I think you need to wait for the right opportunity, and also look into vacant buildings that were probably already food processing facilities, because that's gonna alleviate a lot of the cost that at the end of the day, I think is the bottom line and the most important thing to make these projects as successful.
Can I ask another question? This is Heidi Cesario.
Absolutely.
How long, so they came out with the light bulb idea you mentioned, and how long till it opened? Like, how long did it take to develop?
If you think about it, the idea from developing the expanding the services to the Tri-County area, which was 2007, I think they had already been thinking a couple of years before about the kitchen incubator. So let's say 2005, they started to see all the data that started to come in for the services we were providing. From 2005 to 2013, that was about 8 years in the making. From the idea to finalizing the project. I'm sorry.
Great, thank you. And I have one more question as well. How do you pair use of the commercial kitchen with coaching? How do you feel that they complement each other?
I think it's crucial. I think that the services we provide into coaching our businesses one-on-one, or whether they go to the 10-week training, I think it's very important for our folks to actually understand the difference of a business and a hobby. And I think that a lot of us need to find and define when people are going in for a business versus a coaching versus a hobby. And I think that you, as a team, or someone who's providing these services, you need to come up with an idea to make sure that you are helping the right people. We've seen people who utilized all our services from the beginning to the end, and then they realize that owning a food business is actually a lot of physical work. It's a lot of days that you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's a lot of days where you might be prepping and expecting 2,000 people, and you actually only had 20 orders. You know, I think it's a combination of persistence, and I think we're becoming really, really good at it, because we have created a path that actually is pretty straightforward and pretty honest with people who want to utilize our services. And as part of the screening process, if you want to call it, we host orientations once a month, and this is like an open house for anyone who wants to learn about our programs and services and how to get to use the commercial kitchen. And I think that also has helped us to make sure that people are realistic about what they're getting themselves into. We noticed that if we get 20 people that are interested in utilizing the kitchen, maybe only 4 out of those 20 will continue with the program. And that doesn't mean that the 4 people will actually use the kitchen, because they continue to learn more in the progress before they even do a huge investment on buying equipment or whatever money they think that needs to go into the business, because we actually have a pretty good path to make sure that they understand what they're getting themselves into.
Great, thank you. And we do have a question from one of our audience members. Can you elaborate on how 40 different businesses can use this space? Does each individual business have a scheduled time that they're allowed to use the space?
So part of the work that we're doing now is actually because I work in the facility pretty much every day, we get to understand what schedule each people are going to be using. For example, I have clients that are here twice a week. I have clients that are here a week and a half every month, and then they're gone. I have people who work six days a week. So understanding their weekly schedules. I think that was one of the other things that was very good for us to understand, that a large number of people who work out of our commercial kitchen are creating a packaged product that is sold at retail, which allows them to generate a more steady schedule, and that allows us to have better control in the kitchen. Yes, we have caterers, we have food trucks, and they require to give us a little bit of a heads up on their schedule. But for whatever reason, we haven't been able to deny any kitchen access because it's too full. It's important for me to let you know that even though when you see in the pictures, it's a very small picture, the full size of the production area of our kitchen is actually 8,000 square feet. So I have had 9 businesses working at the same time in the kitchen, and they coexist. Everyone works together. That's one of the initial messages that we want people to understand. It's a community kitchen. It's a shared kitchen, and you have to be able to play with others because that's what it is.
Great, thank you. And we have one more question from an audience member wondering what the cost structure is to access the kitchen, and also what the 10-week training curriculum covers.
So the first question, how much does the kitchen use cost? The kitchen use has a cost anywhere from $10. That's the basic price. And the $10 basically is for people that don't have any cooking equipment usage. Again, we can see Mr. Quintana right here on the right. All what he needed was a prep table and a dishwasher to sanitize and clean his tools to work. And he doesn't need anything else. So that's like the best price. If you're gonna start using the kitchen then, or the stoves or the cooking equipment, the charges can go anywhere from $15 up to $25, depending on the type of equipment that people use in their process.
Is that an hour?
Correct. Yes, the cost is per hour. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, thanks. I think we're finally ready to let you move on.
So one of the things that we learned, this is another program that we actually have in the kitchen that we learned after having our entrepreneurs coming into the kitchen. It was very difficult for them to get quick access to market, and quick access to market means having a place where you can actually go and sell your product. And if you're still in the developing process, you want to have that real feedback from people to see how they feel about the packaging, to see how they feel about the flavor, to see how they feel about if it's too small of a portion or a large of a portion, because that's the only way I think that our entrepreneurs get exposed to the real life that then they have to learn how to deal with. So there was we did not have any access to market for our clients. So when we first opened the kitchen incubator in 2013, we started to develop this relationship with the health department. And I think that's one of the key elements into having successful programs. People need to understand that you have to develop healthy and really good relationships with the entities that are going to be your support. And so it took us about 4 years for the health department to actually allow us to give El Pájaro CDC a permit to go and feature different businesses that operate out of the kitchen incubator at the farmers market in Santa Cruz County. So that's been a really, really good program that has helped our clients to actually get exposed to that direct sale to that farmer, to that public. And we've learned so many lessons from this, from people getting feedback about how bad their packaging is, or if they could do some tweaks to their recipe. It's been really, really a tool that a lot of our clients have benefited from. And by the way, everyone here is actually some of the clients that actually work out of the kitchen.
Neat. Cesario, one question is, who are the kind of partners that you needed to work with to get those access to markets? Can you list? And how was the city government or county government helpful?
I think I think that the crucial partner for the access to market, the biggest hurdle was the health department, because in their eyes, they are either black or white. There is no colors, right? And so one of the things they were very concerned was we usually don't give a permit that's gonna be selling different items at the markets. We only give one permit. But then they thought, how can we make it work? And so they are allowing us to make it work by having a representative of the CDC every time that the market is actually operating. The business is running his operation. We just need to have a representative from the CDC to be there with them at all times that the market is open. Another huge partner that it's been a key element to make all these projects happen, it's been the city of Watsonville. The city of Watsonville has been a tremendous support to everything that we have done. And I think that for whoever is trying to implement these programs, you need to get in there with your city councils. You need to get in their face. You need to let them know what you're doing. And in the bigger picture, I think that people don't get an idea of what is it that you're trying to do until you actually have pictures or until you actually have a site to come and for them to look at. And so I think that those are key elements. You have to make sure that you are as clear as possible in your vision to make sure that these entities who make the final call are actually on your side. Okay, so I'm gonna go into very quickly. I think we're a little bit behind schedule, but I think the next part it should be very easy. So for everyone who's familiar, what is it that we do? This is the work that we do. We're big on job creation, starting businesses. If anyone wants to improve or expand an existing businesses, we're there for them. People who need funding to continue expanding their businesses, it's actually, we help them with the business plan. We help them with the package loan. And that's another part that we actually do. And at the end of the day, what we really want to build is personal and community assets. That's also very, very important for us. Again, many of you are probably familiar with all of the services that we offer. This is in the bigger picture what we offer, how we work with people. I think that most of you will be pretty familiar with all of this, so we can skip this to the next one because I really want you guys to get a glimpse of Mr. Vicente Quintana. There he is. I really like working with Mr. Vicente Quintana because from the beginning, he's had a very, very clear idea of what he wanted to do from the beginning. For those of you that don't know what nopales are, this is actually the tender leaf of the cactus. And you can see his team right on the right-hand side doing everything by hand. They remove the thorns with special knives that they actually use. And on the left-hand side, you can actually see him holding a little bag. And then the final packaged product, it's the little pile of bags that he sells at retail. That's in nopales are Mexican staple. Our culture has been eating nopales from hundreds and hundreds of years, and we're finding out now that they actually have a lot of health benefits. And so we're very happy to have him here. The next part, I want to share with you some of the things that he actually was able to take advantage of working with us. He's a kitchen incubator participant. He first completed the Empresario program in order to understand his vision and have a business plan. He has done a lot of one-on-one coaching with consultants, myself, and other people in the organization. Anytime that we offer any trainings, whether it's social media, whether it's finance, he's always attending these low-cost trainings because he feels the necessity to always continue improving on his business. And then another thing, we've assisted Mr. Quintana to actually have access to a larger market ever since he moved to the kitchen. Just to give you a quick reference of his path with us. He started to sell nopales informally. He went to a local market in the corner of his house and said, I have nopales for you. And the next day, the guy from the market started to request more and more and more, to the point where he was producing about 500 pounds before he moved into the kitchen. And this is weekly, pounds a week. At some point, right before the kitchen opened, he was about to lose his business due to the lack of commercial space. He had already been warned by the health department that it wasn't healthy for him to continue producing or to handling the nopales where he was making them. And he was very, very close to losing the business. So luckily, we opened the commercial kitchen. He was one of the first clients that moved in and completed all the necessary licenses and permits. This is how we help him to get through the process. And then while working with him, we actually assisted him to make sure that he had a very strong pitch to then compete into a larger market. I remember at some point I had to drive with him over to Sacramento, which is about 2.5 hours from where we are, to actually do a pitch to a larger chain of Latino market distributor that at the end of the day, they did not take him, but that gave them enough experience on how to present his product to then go to a larger market. And that's what happened. He's now delivering nopales in all throughout the Bay Area. He's actually got a couple of large Latino markets that he distributes. He's been able to buy 2 large delivery trucks. In the previous slide, you actually saw him in one of them. And gradually, in the last 6 years, he's actually been able to hire about 10 employees now. And his current production is now anywhere from 10 to 15,000 pounds a week. And just to give people a little bit of a different perspective on what to think or what to consider, if you already run a commercial kitchen, you're probably familiar with this, but this is our current situation in our kitchen incubator program. About 10% of the clients that work here have a food truck. We don't have restaurants, and that doesn't apply to the commercial kitchen incubator, but these are other clients that we also serve outside of the commercial kitchen incubator. About 50% of clients that work out of the commercial kitchen incubator have actually sell direct to consumer, such caterers or farmers markets. About 35% of the people that work in the kitchen have packaged retail product. We know that California passed the law to sell food direct from home. We don't have anyone who's graduating from that to the kitchen. However, we're always looking for people to do that. And then value-added products. This is directly attached to farmers because farmers, just to give you an example, I have someone who has an olive orchard and they actually cure the olives and they need the commercial kitchen incubator to hand that process. So you might be tapping into these different ideas, and this is just what our current situation is at the commercial kitchen incubator. As I had mentioned to you before, we get a lot of people that are fully overwhelmed with the process of obtaining all the licensing. this is pretty much the path that Mr. Quintana followed in the process that we help him. As you can see, there are a lot of steps, but we, at the end of the day, understand that it is important for everyone to go through this process to utilize the kitchen. This is our formal process that we utilize for people to use the commercial kitchen incubator. And I'm looking that we're actually running out of time. So I'm gonna try to go a little quick on the next slides.
And Cesario, we're doing okay. We've been asking questions as we've been going along. So yeah, go ahead and take your time. We're doing okay.
Okay, all right. So one of the important things and aspects that makes that we keep in mind at all times, these are the areas that we like to measure and to capture from every single client that works in our program or utilizes our programs. It's very important for us to continue capturing any job creations from how many hours are they hiring, or what's the pay salary. All of this is actually very important for us to continue evolving as organization, and we consider that this is very important for us to continue to have reports, to continue asking for grants. So these are the things that people should be considering on measuring, from how many loans approved, what amounts those loans are for, how are we monitoring the sales, how much different were their sales from 2019 to 2021, or investments, if they bought new equipment, how much did they spend on it, if they have expanded. These are all the things that we like to continue to have to record, and to make sure that we're capturing all of these from every single participant in our commercial kitchen incubator. And one of the things and one of the biggest lessons that we have learned for the last 6.5 years that the kitchen incubator is being open, once a business becomes too big and they cannot longer handle their production, they have to hand their recipe or their production to a co-packer. A co-packer is this company that offers the services in making mass production of recipes, and then they give back the final product to the person that's ready to expand their markets. So we are very excited that we're actually hoping that we're breaking ground of building our co-packing station in the kitchen incubator. We have another section in the building that we're actually utilizing for that. This co-packing station is going to provide a lot of assistance for people that are ready to graduate. Another population that we want to tap into, it's actually local farms. We want to make sure that our farming community, when everyone has tomatoes in the summer, and if they have an excess of product, we can turn that into a value added, give it back to them, and they have to continue, they still have a product that they continue to sell in the low season. So this is a very exciting project that we're actually looking to have, and we are actually very close to make it a reality. And this is a project that's gonna be fully operated and run by El Pájaro CDC staff. This will not be a space that we can rent to other businesses. So we're very excited for this coming year to have this line operating. Another very exciting project that it's very, very, very close to being finished is our little retail incubator. We are actually utilizing one of the spaces from our retail incubator, and we're turning it into a local grocery store where all of the products that are actually made out of the kitchen will be sold there. Many of our clients don't have their products anywhere available in Watsonville. And I think this is going to continue providing that service to the local community that actually are supporters of these small businesses. Besides the products made in the kitchen, I've heard my executive director that she wants to also have local art, and I think it's going to look and it's going to be a pretty cool little concept. And as mentioned earlier, I think we're at about 75% to complete this project, and that also should start sometime this year.
How cool. These two projects are great, Cesario. Are they going to be providing earned income for El Pájaro?
That is the idea. Yeah, they should be generating some income for the organization.
Interesting.
Great. So what we'll do now is have some time for some additional question and answers. Again, please feel free to type in your question in the box in the right-hand side of your chat box. We do have one question to kick us off. Someone was wondering, have you had any conflict between kitchen users? And if so, how do you handle that?
I think that you're gonna, I think that that's gonna be sort of an issue that's gonna arise quite often. We do have a very thorough contract. This is part of the training that I actually do before we even approach the health department. I need to make sure that they understand the contract that they're signing in and the expectations from the CDC that we have for them. I think that it's important to be clear from the beginning. And even though the paperwork seems to be a lot, you at least have something to always go back and look at. Listen, we spoke about this. This is not okay. And this is not what we're here for. But at the end of the day, I think people understand the concept of a community kitchen. In the couple of situations that have arisen regarding that, I listen to both stories and then I bring them together to the table and let's solve this, move on, and don't do it anymore. So it's pretty straightforward. At the end of the day, I think that we need to make sure that people understand their responsibility here. And that's one part that it's I make sure that I'm intentional about. It's just being intentional and make sure that everyone is just treated equally and everyone just follows the rules. At the end of the day, we're making food and this food is going to end up in somebody's body. Let's make sure that we treat it with respect to make sure that it's safe for everybody.
I love that philosophy, Cesario. That's awesome. We have a question about, I believe this is the access to markets piece. Is the permit a farmer's market permit, or is it something special that you've arranged with?
This was a regular permit, but what was challenging for the health department was to give El Pájaro CDC a permit that El Pájaro CDC wasn't going to be selling anything. We were going to be representing other businesses, or we were going to have rotational businesses at the farmers markets. They couldn't quite seem to understand the concept, but it actually took, like I said, about 4 years in constant communication with them in order for them to understand what we were trying to do, which was, at the end of the day, helping businesses.
Got it. So you guys had the permit, not the individual business owners.
That is correct.
They put the trust in you, and so that's the easy thing. So your businesses didn't have to go and get the permits themselves.
That is correct.
Oh, really interesting. Then there's another question about the intake process for a new community kitchen client. Are they giving individual guidance, use a coaching framework? So
what's the question? I'm sorry.
What's the intake process Like
The
if somebody
intake
comes
process.
in, what do they do?
All right.
I think they tend to, or you started with the orientation. Can you
Correct.
just explain a little bit more about that whole process?
Yeah. So as mentioned before, the very first step that we require everyone who wants to make use of the kitchen incubator, and it's actually a really good funnel process. It works as a funnel because people get a really good idea of how we. It's the orientation. We host orientations every month, and that's the only time that we actually have the kitchen open. We tend to do them in the afternoons because if people have a regular job, we understand that they need to be here. It's better for them to be here in the afternoon. So in these orientations, we actually go over what's our process, what services we offer, what do we expect from people that want to work out of the kitchen. We go over the scheduling, we go over our services and what we expect from people, because a lot of people feel a little uncomfortable about responding about themselves and questions, how much are you paying to this individual, blah blah blah. And so people, we go over all of these and we lay it out very clearly. We end up the orientation with a tour in the kitchen, and that just brightens people up because then they can continue to see if it's something they want to continue pursuing or not. From there, we go into the business plan. It's important for me to mention that we have all different levels that come to the orientation. People who have been in businesses for 5 years and are looking for a different kitchen. We have people who have no clue where to start. We have people who moved from different states into California, and they were looking for a commercial kitchen. So we have a bunch of different levels when we do the orientation. And once people decide to whether they want to continue with us or not, they have to complete the business plan. We have to see a completed business plan in order to continue forward into the process of the kitchen. And basically the first part, which is the business plan part, I typically don't see the clients until they're done with the business plan, because the business plan is handled by different personnel of the organization. And once they complete their business plan, then we can go into the kitchen. One of the things that actually it's been very successful for us, even before they start to apply for permits and such, we allow people to come and do a free trial to the kitchen, just to make sure that the equipment we offer is going to be the right equipment for them in their process. And so from there, we move on into all the permitting and licensing.
Great. All right. Well, looking at our time, I think we need to wrap up for today.
Do we have time for one more question, Natalie? If a quick answer, Holly?
It's quick, if it's quick, let's do it.
How many people staff the kitchen to run it properly?
It's myself, and I have an assistant who is an amazing assistant. Right now, there is only 2 people here.
2 people, high capacity.
Yep.
Great. But I'm sure to put, I'll just make a comment on that. I'm sure to put the whole thing together, the planning of it was a lot more resources.
Oh,
Speaking of resources, when we send out the PowerPoint, you will have links to NALCAB's food-based incubator video, the local entrepreneurial ecosystem toolkit that I popped up in chat earlier, Shelter Force's article on food systems inequity, and El Paso CDC's website.
Which is under construction, but feel welcome to donate. I think the donate button is working.
Oh, of course, right? We hope that we wanted to also remind you to connect with us versus social media, and there's all the ways to get in touch with us. And, today we wanted to give you guys a taste, so to speak, of working with food businesses. And we hope we did that. Don't forget to sign up for the next webinar series 2 weeks from today. We'll be discussing how to help your food businesses grow through access to capital. We hope to see you there, and it is 1 o'clock on the dot in Pacific Coast time, and all this talk about food has made me hungry for lunch.
All right, so thank you so much. We hope to see you all on February 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.